I never believed in the paranormal until I started working at the Carlin gold mine in Nevada. It was the biggest gold mine in the state, and I was excited to be a part of the team that helped extract millions of dollars worth of gold from the earth. But after a few months of working there, strange things started happening, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. It all started when I was working the night shift with my partner John. We were deep in the mine, drilling and blasting rock to extract gold ore. We heard strange noises that we couldn't explain, like whispers and footsteps, but there was no one around us. We both dismissed it as our minds playing tricks on us, but we couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. The next night, we were working in a different area of the mine, and we found a strange symbol carved into the rock. It was a circle with 3 triangles inside, and it looked ancient. We had never seen anything like it before, and we couldn't imagine how it got there. We showed it to our supervisor, but he dismissed it as a prank by some bored miners. However, things only got stranger from there. We started hearing voices and seeing shadowy figures in the mine. We also noticed that the gold veins we were extracting were different from what we had seen before. They were purer and brighter, almost like they were infused with something else. We couldn't explain it, but we knew something was off. One night, as we were drilling, John suddenly stopped and looked up at the ceiling of the mine. I followed his gaze and saw a faint glow that seemed to be coming from the rocks above us. It grew brighter and brighter until it was blinding, and we had to shield our eyes. When the light faded, we saw that the rocks had changed. They were now covered in a strange, glittering substance that we had never seen before. We collected some samples and showed them to our supervisor, but he couldn't identify what it was. He sent them to the lab for analysis, and we went back to work. But things only got worse from there. The whispers and shadows grew more frequent, and we started having vivid nightmares about something lurking in the mine. One night, as we were packing up to leave, we heard a scream coming from deeper in the mine. It was a blood-curdling sound that echoed through the tunnels, and we froze in terror. We debated whether to investigate, but we were too scared to move. Eventually, we decided to leave and report it to our supervisor. The next day, we learned that one of our colleagues had gone missing. He had been working the night shift alone and had not returned. A search party was sent to look for him, but they found nothing. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. We were all on edge after that. No one wanted to work alone, and we started hearing rumors that the mine was cursed. People talked about a Native American tribe that had once lived in the area and had been displaced to make way for the mine. They said that the tribe had cursed the mine and that their spirits now haunted it. I didn't know what to believe, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. The strange symbol, the glowing rocks, the screams, and the missing colleague all pointed to something paranormal. I couldn't ignore it anymore. One day, I decided to do some research on the history of the mine. I went to the local library and dug through old records and newspapers. That's when I found something that sent shivers down my spine. In the early 1900s, there had been a gold rush in the area, and many miners had died in accidents or from disease. But there was one particular story that caught my attention. According to the records, a group of miners had discovered a vein of gold that was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was bright and pure, just like the ones we had been extracting, but they soon realized that the gold was cursed. Anyone who touched it would meet a gruesome end, either by accident or by illness. The miners had tried to keep it a secret, but the curse had spread throughout the mine. The Native American tribe in the area had heard about it and warned the miners to stop digging, but the miners didn't listen, and they continued to extract the cursed gold. Eventually, the tribe had no choice but to take matters into their own hands. They performed a ritual to cleanse the mine of the curse, using the symbol that we had found carved into the rock. But it was too late. The curse had taken hold, and the mine was now haunted by the spirits of the miners who had died. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Was this the reason for all the strange occurrences in the mine? Was the gold we were extracting cursed? And if it was, What could we do to break the curse? I shared my findings with John, and we decided to investigate further. We went back into the mine, armed with a copy of the symbol and a plan to find the source of the cursed gold. We searched for hours, following every lead we could find, and finally we found it. Deep in the heart of the mine, we discovered a chamber filled with the cursed gold. It glowed in the darkness, just like in the stories. We knew we had to do something to break the curse, but we didn't know what. That's when John had an idea. He remembered reading about a Native American tribe in the area that still practiced ancient rituals. He suggested that we seek their help and ask them to perform the same ritual that had cleansed the mine in the past. I was hesitant at first. We didn't know if they would help us or if they would even believe our story, but we had to try. We found a member of the tribe and explained our situation. To our surprise, he agreed to help us. He led us to a secluded spot in the desert where he performed a ceremony using the symbol we had found. He chanted in a language I didn't understand, and he sprinkled a mysterious powder over the cursed gold. When he was done, he said a few words in English. "The curse is lifted," he said. "The spirits are at peace." We didn't know if it would work, but we had to try. We went back to the mine, and to our surprise, everything was different. The whispers and shadows were gone, and the gold veins were back to their normal state. We knew that the curse had been broken and that we could finally work in peace. I never forgot the experience of working at the Carlin gold mine. It taught me that there are things in this world that we cannot explain, and that sometimes we have to seek help from unexpected sources. But most of all, it taught me to respect the spirits of the past and to never take what the earth gives us for granted. I had always heard stories of the supernatural and the unexplained, but I never truly believed them until I started working at the Kennecott mine in Alaska. I was a copper miner, tasked with extracting precious ore from deep within the earth. It was a grueling job, but I loved it. One day, while I was working in the mine, I saw something that would change my life forever. It was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen before. It was tall, covered in dark fur, and had a face that looked almost human. I could barely believe my eyes as it walked by me, seemingly unbothered by my presence. I tried to tell my coworkers about what I had seen, but they just laughed and dismissed me as crazy. But I knew what I had seen was real. I had seen Bigfoot. Over the next few weeks, I saw the creature several more times. It seemed to be watching us, almost studying our movements. I tried to get closer to it, but every time I got too close, it would disappear into the shadows. I started to do some research, trying to find out if anyone else had seen Bigfoot in the area. To my surprise, I found out that the Native American tribes in the area had been telling stories about Bigfoot for centuries. They called it Sasquatch, and they believed it was a spiritual being that protected the forests and the creatures that lived within them. But why was Bigfoot at the mine? What did it want? I had so many questions, but no answers. One day I decided to follow Bigfoot, hoping that it would lead me to some answers. I followed it deep into the mine, through tunnels that I didn't even know existed. It was almost as if it was leading me somewhere. Finally, we reached a dead end. Bigfoot turned to face me, and I could see intelligence in its eyes. It reached out a hand and pointed to a section of the wall. I didn't know what it meant, but I started to dig. And to my surprise, I found a vein of copper that was unlike anything we had ever extracted before. It was pure and almost glowing in the dark. I couldn't believe it. Had Bigfoot led me to this discovery? It seemed almost impossible, but it didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, Bigfoot continued to lead me to more veins of copper, each one more pure and valuable than the last. It was almost as if it was helping me, guiding me to the riches that lay hidden beneath the earth. Eventually, my coworkers started to notice the incredible amounts of copper that we were extracting. They were amazed, and they started to ask questions. I told them everything about the creature I had seen and how it had led me to the copper. At first they didn't believe me, but then they saw the evidence for themselves. The copper we were extracting was worth millions of dollars, and it was all thanks to Bigfoot. In the end, we struck a deal with the Native American tribes in the area. We agreed to leave the areas where Bigfoot was known to roam undisturbed, and in exchange, they helped us extract the copper more efficiently. I never saw Bigfoot again after that day, but I knew that it had changed my life forever. I had experienced something that most people would never believe, and it had led me to the riches that lay hidden beneath the earth. I continued to work at the Kennecott mine for years, and every time I saw a glimpse of Bigfoot in the shadows, I couldn't help but smile. It was almost as if it was watching over us, protecting us from the dangers that lay hidden in the darkness. As time passed, I couldn't help but wonder if there were more mysteries hidden within the depths of the mine. I had always been fascinated by the supernatural, and my encounter with Bigfoot had only fueled my curiosity. One night, while I was working a late shift, I heard strange noises coming from deep within the mine. It sounded like whispers, almost like a conversation between multiple people. But when I approached the source of the noise, it suddenly stopped. I was starting to feel uneasy. Was it possible that there were more supernatural beings in the mine, watching us from the shadows? As I continued to work, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It was almost as if someone or something was following my every move. One day, as I was making my way through a particularly dark and narrow tunnel, I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was a figure, almost like a shadow, standing at the end of the tunnel. It was tall and imposing, and it seemed to be staring right at me. I tried to approach it, but as I got closer, it suddenly disappeared. I was left alone in the darkness, feeling more terrified than I had ever been before. From that day on, I started to notice strange occurrences happening in the mine. Tools would go missing, only to reappear in a different location hours later. Lights would flicker, and strange markings would appear on the walls. It was almost like the mine itself was alive, and it was trying to communicate with us in ways that we couldn't understand. One day, I decided to investigate the markings on the wall. As I got closer, I realized that they were symbols that I had never seen before. They were almost like hieroglyphics, but with a strange and otherworldly twist. I started to research the symbols, hoping to find some answers. And to my surprise, I discovered that they were symbols from an ancient civilization that had long been lost to time. They were symbols of power and magic, and they were said to hold the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. But how had they ended up in the Kennecott mine? And why were they appearing now? I started to explore the mine more, searching for answers, and eventually I found something that would change everything. Deep within the mine, hidden behind a wall of rock, I found a cavern unlike anything I had ever seen before. It was filled with strange artifacts and symbols, and it seemed almost like a portal to another dimension. As I approached the center of the cavern, I felt a surge of energy unlike anything I had ever felt before. It was like the universe was opening up to me, revealing its secrets in ways that I could barely comprehend. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the energy disappeared. I was left alone in the darkness, feeling more bewildered than ever before. But I knew that I had discovered something incredible, something that would change the world forever. As I emerged from the mine, I couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries lay hidden beneath the earth. The world was a strange and magical place, full of secrets and wonders that we could only begin to imagine. And I was determined to uncover them all, one discovery at a time. I was a miner at the Climax molybdenum mine in Colorado, and I had always been fascinated by the stories of lost treasure and ghostly apparitions that haunted the mines. But I never thought that I would be the one to uncover something truly extraordinary. It all started one day when I was deep in the mine, working a particularly long shift. As I was drilling into the rock, I heard a strange noise coming from the tunnel next to me. It sounded like someone was digging, but there was no one there. I brushed it off as my imagination and continued to work. But as the days passed, I started to notice more and more strange occurrences happening in the mine. Tools would go missing and then reappear in different locations. Lights would flicker, and I would hear strange noises coming from the tunnels. It was almost like the mine was alive, and it was trying to communicate with me in ways that I couldn't understand. One day, as I was exploring a particularly old and abandoned section of the mine, I stumbled upon something that would change everything. It was a small room, hidden behind a wall of rock, and it was filled with treasure beyond my wildest dreams. There were jewels and gold coins, precious artifacts and ancient relics. It was almost like I had stumbled upon the lost treasure of an ancient civilization hidden deep within the earth. But as I started to examine the treasure, I realized that something was off. There was a strange energy in the room, almost like a presence that I couldn't see or touch. And as I started to dig deeper, I realized that the treasure had a dark and twisted past. It had been stolen from a tribe of Native Americans who had been massacred by the white settlers who had taken their land. The treasure was cursed, and it had brought nothing but misery and despair to all who had possessed it. As I stood in the room feeling the weight of the curse upon me, I suddenly heard a voice. It was faint, almost like a whisper, but it was there, and it was telling me to leave the treasure and run. I hesitated for a moment, but then I realized that the voice was right. The treasure was cursed, and it would only bring me pain and suffering if I kept it. So I left the treasure behind, and I ran as fast as I could out of the mine. I thought that I had escaped the curse, and that I had left the treasure and its dark secrets behind me. But I was wrong. As I emerged from the mine, I was met by a group of men, armed and ready to take the treasure for themselves. They had heard rumors of the lost treasure, and they were determined to claim it for their own. I tried to run, but they caught up to me quickly. And then, just as they were about to take the treasure, something extraordinary happened. The ghost of the Native American tribe that had been massacred appeared before us. It was a haunting and powerful sight, and it seemed almost like the spirits of the dead had come to claim their revenge. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the ghost disappeared. The men were left standing in shock and terror, and I was left alone, realizing that the curse of the treasure had not been lifted, but had only grown stronger. From that day on, I knew that I would never be free from the curse of the lost treasure. It would haunt me for the rest of my days, a constant reminder of the dark and twisted forces that lurked within the mines. But I also knew that I had done the right thing by leaving the treasure behind. The curse may never be lifted, but at least I had prevented it from spreading its darkness. Little did I know that the curse had already taken root within me. It started with small things, like strange dreams and unexplained noises in the night. But then it started to escalate. I would see visions of the ghostly Native American tribe beckoning me to return to the mine and claim what was rightfully theirs. I tried to resist their call, but the lure of the treasure was too strong. I returned to the mine, hoping to find a way to lift the curse and appease the spirits of the dead, but instead I found something even more shocking. As I was exploring the depths of the mine, I stumbled upon a strange and ancient artifact. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, and it seemed to pulse with a strange energy. Intrigued, I picked up the artifact and examined it more closely, and then, suddenly, I was transported to a different time and place. I found myself standing in a lush and verdant forest, surrounded by a tribe of Native Americans. They looked at me with curiosity and suspicion, and I realized that I had been transported back in time to witness the massacre that had led to the curse. As I watched, horrified, the white settlers attacked the peaceful tribe, killing men, women, and children with brutal efficiency. The treasure was taken, and the curse was born. But then, something even more shocking happened. I saw myself in the vision, standing among the white settlers and participating in the massacre. I was filled with a sense of overwhelming guilt and shame. How could I have been a part of something so heinous, and how could I have ever thought that the treasure was mine to claim? As I was transported back to the present, I realized that the curse had been a punishment for my past sins, and the only way to lift the curse was to make amends for what I had done. With a heavy heart, I returned to the Native American tribe, seeking forgiveness for my past actions. They were hesitant at first, but as I told them my story and showed them the artifact, they started to believe me. Together, we performed a ritual to lift the curse, and I felt a weight lifted off of me. The ghosts of the past were finally at peace, and I knew that I had finally made amends for my past mistakes. But as I walked away from the tribe, I realized that I had also lost something important. The treasure may have been cursed, but it was also a symbol of my dreams and aspirations, and now it was gone forever. But I knew that it was a small price to pay for the redemption that I had found. And as I walked away from the mine, I knew that I had finally found a way to put the past behind me and to move on to a brighter future.